welcome here to a very special edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We are inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, Great Lakes Honda City, coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. It's where I've gotten my vehicles for over a decade, and it's where I would appreciate going and for your family and for you personally to get yours, because not only are they awesome and good on gas mileage, but they're safe. And thanks to one of the Hondas I had, the first Honda I've ever had, it arguably saved my life in an accident. So big time shout out to Honda and to Great Lakes Honda City. You can get more information by going to greatlakeshondacity.com, and they are open Monday through Saturday. In this edition of the Bobcat Buzz and our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse, I am happy to have yet another exclusive conversation coming to you, and that is with our new Bryant Stratton Syracuse head baseball recruiter, Rich Dessureau. And Rich is here with us for this edition of the Bobcat Buzz as we give him his first official interview. Rich, how we doing?
Good, Dan. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for taking the
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. And it's my pleasure. And I know that we just had a season without baseball. You know, baseball is a very
Mhm.
young sport at Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse. We've had a couple seasons under our belt, and we didn't have this past season as we are in the spring of 2025. And then there was a look by Brooke Parrow and, of course, Mary Hawkins and the team at Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse for the future of baseball. First and foremost, what does it mean to you that such a young program, Bryant Stratton Syracuse, did not give up on the program? They didn't say, okay, we're just going to get rid of it. The fact that they said, we're going to retool, refocus, take a season off, and we're going to keep it and make sure we find the right person. What did it mean to you that they kept the baseball program?
I mean, it means a lot to me. Baseball has been one of the biggest driving forces and influences in my entire life. And I have been looking to get my hands on a program for a very long time. So seeing how Brian Stratton pushed through, some unfortunate things that happened in the times before I was lucky enough to join the team. But the way that they just pursued it and stayed on course and have such a passion for it, it was a big thing for me, and a big reason and why I accepted the position when offered, is the people there, like you said, Brooke and Mary Hawkins and Clay and everyone else, Nolan in the program, they're all absolutely fantastic. So their love even further ignited my love. So it was really great to see.
How did you find out about Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse and this opportunity?
I mean, I had heard some, a good word about Brian Stratton shortly when I after I moved to the Syracuse area back in 2022, I believe it was. It was the end of 21 or 22, I can't remember. But I had heard a lot of good things, especially on the athletic side, but also on the academic side. Um, and I heard about the opportunity, honestly, just came across it online, and I'd heard a friend in the community who's just a big person in the community, so to speak, had heard about the job as well. And they said, hey, I know you're looking to get back into baseball. You've been a coach for a very long time, and you've been away from the game for, about 2 or 3 years or so. And I think this would be a really cool opportunity. And I said, yeah, I had seen that as well. And I'd reached out. And then, like I said, once I met Brooke and Mary and everybody at the staff there, it felt like it was home. It felt like it was meant to be.
And you said, you've had that passion for baseball for such a long time. Where did that passion start, and why did baseball connect with you so much?
Big influence was my father. My dad and I share the same name. I'm a junior, so we're pretty
Hmm.
close. And my dad was actually scouted out of high school and invited to Cincinnati Reds camp when he was younger. Unfortunately, got in a car accident about 6 months before training camp and everything, and wasn't able to play. But he was a huge multi-sport athlete, and he instilled that in me. And from a young age, sports was just something that I took to. And baseball was not only the sport that I think I was best at and that I felt that I was best at, but just something that it was the game that drew me in. It was my first love. It was my first true passion. And, every kid wants to be like their dad growing up.
Hmm.
So already liking baseball and then having your dad be such a big influence in it, that was a big thing for me.
You said that, your dad obviously playing and having the opportunity with the Cincinnati Reds. What did he say to you about what he went through? Because something you can't control, right? Adversity.
Mhm.
I said going into the show that, my Honda CRV, my 99 CRV, arguably saved my life and kept me from being paralyzed. Your dad,
Mhm.
also unfortunately in a car accident. no control over it, right? Things
Yep.
happen. How how has he kind of taught you about adversity and responding to adversity from the fact that when he had his car accident, like you said, I mean, he had a massive opportunity ahead of him and then something happened completely out of his control?
Biggest thing that he's always taught me is the world is about perspective. And like you had said, is you can look at that situation, take your car accident, for example, or his, and you can look at it and find every negative thing with it, or you can find the positive and say, look at this amazing vehicle that saved my life. Look at me still being here. Look at what could have happened to anybody else in the accident and it didn't. So
Yeah.
one of the biggest things is always about perspective and finding the silver lining. His biggest thing was he said, maybe I got in that car accident because I was meant to be here, and maybe if I went pro, I wouldn't have stayed with your mother just because of traveling and all of that, and you guys wouldn't have been here. And so it's always about finding perspective and seeing the brighter side, and that's one of the biggest things in all parts of life. I'm a St. John's alumni, and I don't know if you've seen the clip going around on social media with our head coach, the Godfather, Rick Pitino. But when he was, kind of getting on his guys' butts about everything, one of the biggest things he said is, life is about adversity. So stand up and deal with it, and that's the biggest thing is finding perspective and keeping going.
Yeah, and you and I talked off the air about St. John's. A little frustrated with St. John's as I did pick them to win the NCAA tournament. So I had a lot of high hopes for St. John's this year in men's basketball. And Rick Pitino, he was one of my white whales, so to speak, that I wanted to interview. I got to interview him years ago, and I got to
Awesome.
speak with him. And I believe I spoke with him more than once. So, but I know I definitely did when they were in the Big East and he was at Louisville. So just
hmm
what you can say to Rick Pitino. I mean, being an alum of St. John's, what is it for you to have the godfather of basketball as your head coach?
It it's an honor. That's all I can say and anybody can say anything they want about anybody, but I haven't personally met Rick, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about his character, the dad and the leader that he is. And that's the first thing everybody says too is he leads like a father. And going being a St. John's alumni since 2012, it I've seen a couple of different coaches come through the building and some with huge names, i.e. Chris Mullen. I got the chance to meet Chris a couple of times. He's an absolutely fantastic human being and a great basketball mind, but we all saw that the team, didn't do as well as, say the team under Rick did. But having a coach like Rick is just it's unbelievable. You can just see the difference in the team in recruiting and just the way that they play and it's truly an amazing thing.
Yeah, and for you, St. John, why St. John's? Why did you choose to become a Red Storm alum?
I had a couple of different options. So when I was coming out of high school, I was looking at like the JUCO and D3 levels for playing baseball. I didn't have any D1 looks or anything like that, but my goal was to possibly walk on a Division One school.
Yeah.
So my aunt actually is a St. John's alumni as well, and she had some connections at the university, and so I went and took a tour. Just I don't want to say in a whim, but took on a genuine interest in a tour. But I was competing or looking at a couple of different schools, at a couple of different schools competing to try to get me to come play and different things. So to get me to away from the Division 1 programs versus towards like the Division 3 JUCO programs. But when I went there, I fell in love with the staff. I got a very great opportunity. I worked in the Red and White Club for the basketball program, which is basically the VIP room for the men's basketball program. So I got to meet a lot of people, make a lot of great connections, and I fell in love with the school, and I've always loved New York City. So being able to go to school right in Queens and be able to have access to Manhattan and everything like that was it was a no-brainer once I was narrowing down my options.
Did you get to walk on? Did you get to connect with the baseball program?
And I had talked to everybody there. Yes, I was looking to walk on, and about 6 weeks before tryouts, similar situation to my dad, but not a car accident. I started having issues in my arm. I went from throwing about mid to high 80s to low 70s within a week, and I have some radial nerve damage in my right elbow. So I unfortunately had an injury that prevented my college career. So I'm glad I did end up going with a school that I truly felt fit me academically as well as athletically. because I was able to take advantage of a lot of those opportunities post injury, and really push my career in another way. And that was another time that I really fell in love with coaching again, because I coached at a very young age. But obviously, when you're younger, you're not coaching at the level that you want to, or it's just not able to coach at the level that you want to coach at. So being able to take the time and go back and work with some bigger programs and things of that nature, and older kids, that was something I really enjoyed. And kind of like I said, take the perspective. And I could have said, "Oh, my elbow, I didn't get to play," but it opened up a lot of other avenues for me. So it was really great.
Yeah, and you and I had talked, like I said, off the air about some things. Let everybody know where you're a native from.
So initially, I'm from Albany, just outside Albany, New York, little town called East Greenbush, New York. I am a Columbia High School and Maple Hill High School alumni. I played my senior varsity season at Maple Hill, and I played the other three at Columbia. So if you're familiar with that area, you know right where I'm talking about. If not, it's a small little town in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so I mean, coming from that Albany area, obviously you're not too far from where we're talking about in the city and not too far away from that St. John's area. Did you envision yourself staying in the state of New York because you're around Albany growing up, then you go to St. John's, so now we have you, in that city life area, and now we have you back because what St. John's and what Jamaica, New York. So now we have you here in Syracuse. Was that the vision? Was that the thought, or was the original thought like I'm going to get out of New York and see what else is out there?
So I actually did. So after I graduated college, I went back home for a little bit just to reconnect with my family and kind of see. I had some job offers coming out of college. I actually my end of my senior year, I interned at the commissioner's office in Major League Baseball. So I was in special events, in the ticketing side and the management side of all the special events. So I did everything from, I don't know if you remember back in 2016. MLB did a game at Fort Bragg down in North Carolina between the Marlins and the Braves. I helped orchestrate a lot with that. Also, that year's Celebrity All-Star game, as well. So I had some opportunities, but I went back to reconnect with my family. And then my brother's actually a musician, so we were looking to maybe move a different place together, and we actually settled on Nashville. So I moved to Nashville late 2017 and lived there for 3.5, 4 years, and then moved home shortly after the beginning of the pandemic. Just with everything that had happened, a lot of Nashville was shut down, so my brother's music career was on pause for a little bit, and my career was on pause, obviously, like everybody else's was for a little bit. So that changed up, and with everything, my grandfather had gotten sick. So we had moved home, just to be closer to family with all of that. And then once we had moved back, um, we had kind of settled, and hey, I'll be back in New York for a while. And I actually met my girlfriend while I was in Nashville. We've been together almost 5 years now. And she is originally from Buffalo, and like I said, I'm from the Albany area. So
Yeah.
this was the perfect blend right in the middle. And people don't believe us to this day, but her last name is actually Syracuse. No joke. And so we always say it was meant to be.
Well, I mean, here's the interesting. So you guys met in Nashville?
Yes. So
So
yes,
you
we met in Nashville.
so you're from Albany, she's from Buffalo. You met in Nashville, and people want to sit here and act like God doesn't orchestrate things. So
And her last name is Syracuse, directly in the middle of our two hometowns, and the place that we just so happened to end up finding, some mutual jobs and mutual love that we had for the area.
So I have to ask you. I mean, I got to get into this, Rich, because learning
Mhm.
about you and hearing about all these things, it's like if something could be perceived as bad or perceived as good, all of these things on your journey were guiding you to where you are right now. So when people say, I mean, there's this quote, and I want to make sure that I quote it perfectly here because it's a quote that means a lot to me, and I see it all the time. Sometimes I see it daily. I feel like I've definitely seen it weekly. It's the quote Proverbs 16:9 from the Bible. If it's in God's will, it will happen and nothing will stop it. If it's not, God has a better plan. Have peace knowing this. How does this verse in the Bible parallel your life? I'm seeing the parallel, but I'd love to get your thoughts because you've told me things about like my grandfather's sick, COVID happened, so I come back home. So that makes sense, but it's an adversity moment. The adverse thing that happened with wanting to walk on at St. John's, but having radial damage and things going on with your body. So there's pieces there, but yet you were still in the right place. And when you were in Nashville, you're meeting somebody from upstate New York. So it seems like when God has challenged you, it's been good. And when God has blessed you, it's been good. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that because some people think blessings are blessings, but they don't think adversity is a blessing. And everything you've said on the show so far has shown us that they're both blessings.
Absolutely. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I think it all comes back to one of the first things I said about perspective. And, it's you can look at every negative thing to happen, and I could look at, myself getting hurt or my grandfather getting sick or anything that's happened to me and say, oh, woe is me. What can I do? Or you can not stress, know that there's a plan and work through that plan. So I don't think it needs much explanation. That was a beautiful, beautiful excerpt, and I think it does parallel. It's just even if you're not religious, have faith in the world, have faith in yourself, and have faith in your universe. And if you work hard and you continue to put yourself in the right positions, good things will happen to you. And especially if you believe in God, lean into that and know that without the bad, there is no good. How do we know all the blessings and all the bright sides in our life? We don't have the negativity. Take baseball, for example. How is a 300 hitter good if everybody goes up there? How is any pitcher ever good if everybody goes up there and gets hit every time? It's how you deal with the adversity and how you change your perspective to make things better. So,
well, and I had a softball player tell me here recently, Liv Henty of the Liverpool softball team here in Central New York. She said, softball's a game of failure. And it's the same thing with baseball. So, she said, you typically, when you go up and you try and hit the ball, you're not going to hit the ball 4 of 5 times that you're up to bat. And she said, so think about that. There's only 1 out of those 5 times that you're actually going to hit it. You just talked about having, a 300 batting average. Well, a 300 batting average means that 70% of the time you're not getting a hit. So what can you say to recruiting a sport, coaching a sport, where failure is a normal thing and they're going to fail more than they succeed? They're going to strike out more than they hit a home run. They're going to not get a hit more than they get a hit. How do you use that and teach life through baseball?
It's pretty easy. That exactly what you just said is life. You're not going to be 1,000 hitter in life. You're not going to get every job you've ever applied for. You're not going to, every guy or girl you ask out is never going to say yes. You're never going to hit, nothing is ever going to be perfect in life. But if you work hard and you do things the right way, you will be able to see and reap the benefits, like you had said. I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it, but it's like Rick said, life is about adversity, and you don't want to wilt like a kid. You don't want to wilt like something soft. You stand and you fight back in the toughest times, because then in the end, when you're smiling and you look and go, holy crap, I hit 330 this year. But, at one point I was only hitting 180. Life is a game of ups and downs. And that's what baseball is. Baseball, to me, it's the hardest sport in the world. I know people will try to say that golf is, and trust me, my golf game will also kind of back up the fact that it might be the hardest one. But baseball is the hardest game in the world, and I think it's a true testament. Baseball players are a true testament to adversity and to mental toughness, because going in knowing that you're going to get a 30, if you got a 30 on a test, you go home and your parent, as a kid, your parents would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And going in knowing you're going to get a 30 is a tough thing. But that's why I like to say baseball and softball players are a different breed. And I think it's just showing how you move through things on the field. Will show you exactly how you can move through life. It's just, you're looking for the next AB, you're looking for the next pitch. If that one wasn't perfect, you can make the next one better.
Yeah, I love it. Rich Dessureau here in this edition of the Bobcat Buzz in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse, your head baseball recruiter. for this upcoming season. And as we're here in the Great Lakes Honda City Studios on Wake Up Call, Rich, I want to go back to your girlfriend here. What's her name?
Caitlin.
Caitlin Syracuse. So
Hmm.
I want to know how you met in Nashville and how y'all agreed to come back here together.
So it's actually a funny story. So we had met through a friend of, actually a mutual friend of ours, which ironically she had set up. We just went to their wedding back in late August, early September. I can't remember the exact day. But we went to their wedding, and Caitlin actually set up. So it's my friend James
Yeah.
actually set up James and his now wife Lauren. And Lauren and Caitlin work together. They're both pediatric oncology nurses, so they work together in Nashville. And I had just gotten out of a relationship before that I had met her. And you know when you're just in that in between phase where you're just getting out of a relationship and you're kind of just focusing on yourself is the point that I was at. And my buddy James gave me a call and said, "Hey, a group of us are just having a few drinks. Why don't you come on out? I know, things have been a little tough for you lately, so just come hang out with your friends and whatnot." And I said, "Yeah, he was a very, very close friend of mine, so I said, absolutely."
Yeah.
And then when I showed up, the only seat at the table was right next to Caitlin. So I played the first 20 minutes like I didn't even notice her, and that she wasn't pretty and she wasn't all these other things. And then here I am, year and a half later, leaning over saying hello, and the rest is history. We hit it off, and it's actually we met shortly after I had moved home. So or shortly before I had moved home. So about 6 weeks or so after I had met her was actually when I moved home, because my grandfather and I were very close, and my grandmother and I were still very, very, very close. I was her first grandchild, so she always, that's always a special place for your grandmother. So, and
Yeah.
she's a very, very strong, smart woman. So it was really fun being her number one grandson. But she and I are very, very close, and she rarely asks me for anything, and she asked me for some help. So I, will always put family first. And so we actually had some tough times in the beginning of meeting. We did a little bit of distance in the beginning because I was home taking care of him, and I actually moved back to Nashville. He passed in, I believe it was January of 2021. Yeah, he
Sorry.
passed away. So once he had passed and I made sure my grandmother was all set and everything, I actually moved back to Nashville with her for a little bit before, and then we moved to Syracuse together.
So what's your grandfather's first name?
His name was Ken.
Ken.
Yep.
Ken. So, and I'm sad for your loss. I,
Thank you.
of course. So my grandfathers both passed away in '92.
Mm.
I was 6. It was the same year. One was February. One was the day I was supposed to be born 6 years before. On the 14th, I was born on October 21st. And I reflect back, and I will tell you this, Ken, and how you talk about him and just kind of seeing your reaction while you were talking. I would imagine you could probably equal me on this. I have spent a long time without physically seeing them. I think about them at least once a day. They
Yep.
affect me every day.
Hmm.
And if somebody asks me who raised me, who teaches me, who grows me, who helps me to learn, I would credit them 30 some odd years later of being a part of this. So
Hmm.
I want to take some time for Ken today and what he has taught you, what he continues to teach you, and how we can still see his fingerprints on your life.
Well, the first thing I'll say is both of the men that I call, which I don't call them grandpa, but that I call my grandfathers,
Yeah.
are both actually not my biological grandfathers. Both of my grandmothers remarried,
Yeah.
and both of the men, one is still with us. My other grandfather Bob is still with us.
Shout out to Mom.
And I can tell you, he flip side of the coin, that man is in phenomenal shape. I don't know exactly how old he's in his 70s, and I'll tell you, he can still do as many push-ups as his age in a row without stopping. So he's a workhorse, and he grew up on a farm, and that's just the type of guy he is. They currently have a couple horses and donkeys, so he's a workhorse. But my grandfather that passed away, Ken, and my grandfather Bob, the biggest thing that I commend them for is they didn't have to be in my life. They chose to. They actively made it a point to be a grandfather and to be a role model for me. And without even teaching me anything, is that taught me a lot. And they taught me to be there for the ones that you care about the most and be there for the ones that need you. And whether that's family, friends, coworkers, it's just be a good human being and always look to do the right thing. It's not always the easiest thing to do the right thing, and we all know that, but at the same time it was do the right thing, do right by people, work hard, and good things will come. And I learned that just by watching them, because like I said, I have a younger brother as well, and they were at all my games. Like whenever my mom and dad would call and say, "Hey, do you want to watch the kids for the night?" Yep. And we'd run right in, and my grandma would always get jealous because she'd come in and she'd spend all the time with us, and we'd run right in the chair and sit with Pop. You know what I mean? So it was just one of those things where it was love that didn't necessarily have to be there. It was there because they wanted it to be there. So that's I guess the biggest thing. And they've taught me a million different things. I mean, my grandfather that passed was a medic in the Air Force, and my other grandfather was a nuclear technician on the submarine in the Navy. So they were both brilliant, brilliant guys and taught me a lot of different things. But the biggest thing they taught me is just to care and be a good person, and good things will come through that.
Very similar to what I can say I was taught. My grandmother, my G Mama, that passed at almost 101. She always
A
said,
hell of a run.
yeah, she always said, keep your nose clean, be a good boy, pray to God, and to work hard.
Hmm.
And when you speak about these gentlemen, you said something. You said they're not my biological. They didn't have to be there. They chose to be. I tell people all the time, and it's funny because I posted years ago, family has nothing to do with blood. It has to do with the people that show up. And there's someone in my family that is a blood relative that got so offended that she called my father. And I said, it's kind of like saying murderers are bad. If that statement offends you when you see it, you might be a murderer. And so, when I saw that, uh, why would somebody be offended when I said, blood doesn't have to be family? It's because if I told you right now, we talk about 30%, 70%, 30% of my family that I call family is biological. 70% chose. And I would argue in your life, Rich, and in my life, I don't have any brothers or sisters. But when people meet me, I tell them off the jump, I got like 8 brothers. I got a couple sisters. I'm going to tell you who they are, and I'm not going to refer to them as anything other than my brothers and my sisters. If that weirds you out or makes you uncomfortable, that makes no sense to me, and you can move along. My nieces are my nieces, my nephews are my nephews, but I always say to my brothers and my sisters, we chose each other. We weren't stuck at a family dinner table and we have to deal with each other because we have the same mom. We chose each other because something about who they are and who I am, it clicked. And it was like they say all the time, God gives you your family. And so I'm nodding my head while you're talking about grandfathers because they're your grandfathers, and my brothers are my brothers and my sisters are my sisters. So family has nothing to do with blood. In my opinion, it has to do with the people that spend the time, are consistent, and care, which is a lot of the stuff that you just talked about.
Hmm. It is, and that was the biggest thing, like my grandfather that passed. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I was a bigger reader, and he loved reading, and it was funny. We would pick a book to read together, and we would set a page, and we would have to read to that page by a certain day, and we'd be calling. And after he passed, my grandma had me crying, laughing because she'd go, he would forget and wait till then he'd be trying to read 70 pages in 40 minutes before he knew you were calling, just so because he didn't want to not be able to talk about it with you. So I agree. And it's the same thing with friends. I mean, I have a friend that I was friends with since God, we were 13 years old.
Yeah.
And one day they, turn around and drop any, and we talk every day. And then
Yeah.
I have another friend who I went to college with that, I won't talk to for 6 months at a time. And if I called him tomorrow and said, I need your help, he'd be there without a question. And that's someone that I consider family. So I totally get what you mean.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening to all this and I'm going, okay, Rich, we get each other. I don't know
Mhm.
how much you realize that we get each other, but we definitely seem like we understand the road we've taken. I am a
Mhm.
single man in a crazy dating world with dating apps that I'm convinced are only filled with people that are truly out of their minds. Serial killers are on there, in my opinion. So
I do not envy you, Dan. I do not.
my dad does not envy me. My
No,
dad's
I was gonna
prayer.
say I know a lot of people like to say, oh, the single life is fun, and it is, and it can be, but it's also can be very stressful. So I understand where you're coming from for sure.
The single life is fun for people that want to do bad things. The single life is not fun for people that are like me that have this like Captain America complex where I wanted to get married when I was younger. I wanted to stay with them forever. I couldn't wait to be a dad, sometime in my life to be a grandfather. So I'm going to ask you, since God had such an amazing way of bringing you to someone else from upstate New York in Nashville, Tennessee, and helped you through a long distance relationship. And her last name is Syracuse. And then you stayed with each other. You stayed bonded. You went back to her. And then she came to you. And essentially, you both came home in a way. I want the best relationship advice you can give a man that is very close to shutting my door, boarding my house up, putting a steel barrier behind it, and honestly committing my time to building an Iron Man suit instead of dating.
I mean, first off, I don't think that sounds like a terrible plan. I mean, I'm a huge Tony Stark fan. I think Robert Downey Jr. casted as Tony Stark is the best casting Marvel has ever done. So,
True.
I mean, I guess you could say Chris Hemsworth literally looks like the embodiment of Thor as well. But I'll still stick to it. Tony Stark's my guy. So I mean, if you do, that's not a terrible alternative, I will say. But
I agree.
um, I guess the best dating advice I can give one is yes, get off the dating apps, Dan. They are nothing
Horrible.
but a nightmare and a trap, I feel like. So, but the best thing that I can do is say is surround yourself with good people because obviously my relationship came from good mutual friends and another good human being, but put yourself in the right scenarios and kind of follow our theme like you've been saying, if you're religious, lean into God, and if you're not, lean into the universe or lean into whatever you do believe in. And I think that's the same thing too is, I was kind of before I had met her, I had a tougher relationship before her and, without going into detail, it was a tough situation and when I left that relationship, I said, that might be it for me for a while. I don't think, I blame myself for some things in that relationship and I don't for a lot of others. But I thought I was going to take a lot of time to reflect on myself and work on myself even more than I already had. Um, and the universe kind of put the perfect person right in my lap. So I
Yeah.
guess too, it's also, not saying you are, but if someone is forcing the situation or when you're so focused on that thing, a watch pot never boils. It's the same kind of scenario. It would be let the universe do its thing, but put yourself in the right situations to do that. My younger brother is single as well, and uh, he always says it's not for a lack of trying. He goes out and he socializes and he does things and whatever. And I said, "Bud, you're 27 years old." I said, "Things will happen." And granted, my younger brother looks like Ryan Gosling, so that was always fun growing up with a younger brother that looks like Ryan Gosling's doppelganger. So that's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, just put yourself in the right position and be yourself too. That's a lot of people try to front and be things that they're not. And when it push comes to shove, it's the same thing with friends and relationships. Is sooner or later you got to pay the piper. And if you're not yourself, that's gonna show. So
Yeah.
I always say, I guess the big thing is be yourself, put yourself in the right situations to an extent and let the rest just kind of take its course. The more you force it, the more it's gonna seem like a job or a task rather than finding something beautiful, you know?
Yeah, and I will say that the goatee that has been with me since April 26th of
Hmm.
2019, I think.
Hmm.
This this goatee is a little ode back to Mr. Stark in a way because I do different things with it. I mess with it. I give different designs to it, and my
I was gonna
oldest
say you
niece.
got to get the points coming up the
Yeah,
cheek a little bit too.
I've actually done that. I call it the shark. And so I've done those before, and so my oldest niece and nephew, Emily and Carter, actually refer to me as Tony, and they are in my phone as Friday and Jarvis. So
That's fantastic. I love that. I absolutely love that.
and I do have my Iron Man helmet. The rest of the body is to be continued. So with that being said, Rich Dessureau here with us. Getting into the baseball side of things, we are
Hmm.
knowing you as the head baseball recruiter as this
Hmm.
team is being assembled. What can you say, speaking of us both liking Marvel and Avengers Assemble, how are you assembling this Bryant Stratton baseball team at Syracuse? What are you doing? What do we have? Are people staying? Give us the bones of what's happening here.
Yeah, so I have a really good core group of guys that are with me that from when I inherited the program. And basically, since I've been there, I've hit the ground running. No recruiting ground is out of bounds, no area is off limits. I've made a huge push in the local community as well as through all the online recruiting platforms. I'm in contact with coaches. Um, from Boston, New York City, DC, Chicago, Atlanta. So I've got a pretty big network coming in,
Yeah.
and I've just been reaching out to everybody that I know. I'm in some good talks with a couple of guys right now. I'm not going to obviously name names or anything like that, but we're in a good spot, and I'm looking to build not just build a program, but build a powerhouse program. I come from a background where you don't win every game, but I don't lose. And I'm a very competitive person, but also a very passionate person in the sense of understanding my players. So I'm trying to build a program from the core out. I want guys who are hungry. I want guys who want to win. And the most importantly, I want guys who want to learn because now I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm the biggest, expert in everything, coaching and everything, but I am very confident in my baseball abilities, my background, my coaching to where I want to build a team and I want to help these guys not only be better on the field, but better in life.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from my coaches, a lot of my coaches growing up. And they were some of the biggest influences on me. And now I would love to be that for them, but even if I'm not, it would be great. It's great to just be there and be positive and be an influence on young men's lives. That's something that I've always wanted to do, and like I said, coaches were a big part in my life. So I've taken that, and I want to build a program that kids are incredibly proud of, and the school is even more proud of than it already is, and be known, like you said, baseball is one of the newer sports, so to speak, to Brian and Stratton, and I want to make it one of the sports we're absolutely known for. I mean, if you look what Clay has done with the men's basketball program and being, I know he had a tougher end of the season last year, but still ending the season as the number one seed and how great of a team they are. That's my goal for the baseball program as well, is to make it a program that I want to say feared in a positive way, but feared to play and revered as a really, really good program and somewhere you can really go to better your future on and off the field.
I know recruiting is a big part of it, but what are the other components that you believe can help this program to get off the ground and truly fly? We've seen a couple years of it, not a lot of victories. There's been a lot of kind of where's the home going to be? What field are they going to play on? All of these elements that we still ask, to this day, a few
Mhm.
years in. So besides just recruiting, what are the other pieces that Rich Dessureau believes are going to make this a program that is feared and revered?
Biggest thing is establishing a culture. if you do not have a culture and a system that your guys believe in, then to be honest with you, you don't have a team. You don't have an organization. If your roster is 40 men and you don't have 40 men bought into the same thought and the same idea, then what's the point? We're all out here for ourselves, or we're all out here for different reasons. So, one of the biggest things that I want to build with Bryant Stratton Syracuse is the culture. Like I said, I want guys who are hungry. I want guys who want to win, but I want guys who want to learn too. Because I've found throughout my career, you can get the biggest, baddest, best players in the world, but if they don't want to listen to a word anybody has to say, then talent only takes you so far.
Yeah.
So without going, too expansive on it, that's my biggest thing is establishing a culture. And I think once you see the culture get established, then it's recruiting and everything else follows suit. Because if you have a solid core, a solid thought and a solid belief on who you are, what you want to do, and where you want to go, it's easy to get other people who are like-minded to buy into that same concept. So that's my biggest goal, and I think that will truly, I don't want to say establish dominance, but just establish the permanency and establish the the hope that everybody has for the baseball program. And that's what I've tried to do with my core guys that are there. And any guys that I talk to, the first thing I say is that, I'm reaching out to you because of all the positive things that have been said about you as a human being. You know what I mean? That's one of the biggest things I look for first, because I can walk and watch, two games and tell if someone is at least of a talent level that, you would want to bring into your program. But
Right.
you don't always get to see a lot of the off the field things and stuff like that. So that's the biggest thing, is not only bringing in young men, but bringing in the right guys.
And like you said, I mean, you're looking to create this culture, and culture is built out of character, right? So
Hmm.
you wanna find those good character people. Like you said, you don't get to see everything off the field, but when you are meeting with these kids or talking with these kids, how do you find a way, right? Because you're not in every moment. You're not at their house. You're not with them in the middle of the night. You're not with them first thing in the morning. You're not with them when they're walking through the halls in school. So, what do you do to try to get through all of that and kind of crack the code, so to speak, to find out who they are?
It's a lot about asking the right questions. But you can see a lot of things in some simple interactions. When they don't know you're there, they don't know you're looking. A lot of times I reach out and chat with coaches, but some of the first times that I go and see players, I like to not even have them know that I'm there. I like to see their interactions with their teammates, the people that walk up to the dugout and the fence, their parents, and everything of that nature. I'm a mama's boy, and I'm not afraid to say it in the most positive way. I love my mom, and that's just always how it's been. I was very close with my dad, but I'm very, very close with my mom as well. Um, and seeing how somebody, if you're lucky enough to still have your mom in your life, I know some of us aren't lucky enough to have our moms, but those of you that are, how you treat your mom, how you treat your grandmother, how you treat your dad, how you treat anybody, the little things like that, how you walk from the dugout to the car, how you walk to when you stretch. It's just the little things, and it's finding every little moment like that. Yes, I can't see, you walk down the halls at school, but let's be honest, how many of us are, I like to think I'm a good human being. I've been told by a lot of others I'm a good human being, but how many of us were sometimes a little bit of an idiot in high school, or did some, silly things here and there that, so it's not always putting a kid under the microscope, but it's seeing how they interact with the people closest to them, how they interact with, anybody when you have that opportunity. And generally, if there's major problems, they'll show themselves pretty quickly. And the stuff that isn't any major, it's the biggest thing, is you don't have to be perfect, but you got to be coachable. And that circles back to what I said before about buying in, and having the right mental state, and being able to buy in and into a culture, and be a part of it. So I think that's a big thing, is just truly, and take the time to know the guy you're looking at, and a lot of guys see, stats, and they see a right fielder, or they see a shortstop, and whatever. I see Stan, I see Kyle, you know what I mean, whatever the kid's name might be,
Yeah.
and I look at them as a person first, and usually, like I said, anything will air itself out if it's that big of a concern.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree. So, we're here in the spring of 2025. What is our hope for baseball? moving forward?
Our hope is by the end of the summer, we are moving in the positive direction, have the squad together for some fall ball activities and making a huge push for spring 26 for the main season.
And as far as kind of the number, how many kids you would like to have, where you envision playing your home games, do you have some of those things? Are you working on a schedule? Kind of where are those other pieces?
Yeah, so right now I don't have a set number that I'm looking for entirely. Leaving that open. Ideally, we would love to have a full roster. But if I'm a couple of guys short just in the first year, that's okay as well. But we're good. We're moving in in the right direction. We have a lot of positive feedback and a lot of connections. Like I said, I was out tonight at a game actually speaking with a few players. So. I have a couple meetings moving forward, so we're in a very good place. In terms of our home games, I know at one point we were looking to possibly play at OCC, but we have a couple of different options in the air as well. We're looking at a couple of different locations and whatever we feel is going to be best for Bryant Stratton as a whole, and best for the team. The best facility, the best place that we can get the guys is that's where we want to be. So that would I would have to defer you a little bit more to Brooke on that one. She's working a little bit more close on that side as to where I'm on the obviously the player recruitment side at the moment. That's my big push. But we're working together and that's kind of our plan at the moment.
Coming here from Rich Dessureau here with the Bobcat Buzz in this exclusive first conversation with Rich since being named our Bryant Stratton Syracuse head baseball recruiter in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Bryant Stratton Syracuse here inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios on Wake Up Call. We do a thing called Rapid Fire. Rich and I get to put each other on the hot seat. Questions can be about literally anything in the world. We have connected on so many things, Rich, that I think you and I are going to have some fireside chats coming up, and I mean actual fire, maybe some s'mores, because I think we should do that. I think the world should have more s'mores in their life.
A
But
good summer campfire with a s'more is never a bad thing.
yeah, so I think I could see some fireside chats with us, but we're gonna start a fireside chat here in this rapid fire. You get to ask the first question. What do you have for me?
Favorite Marvel movie, go.
Oh boy.
Actually, two-parter. Favorite Marvel movie, best Marvel movie,
Okay.
go.
Favorite Marvel movie? Mm. Oh, that is so difficult.
I know.
I'm gonna say the original Avengers because I never knew if Thor was gonna work and if people would actually think like this this person connected to thunder would actually like make sense and come to life, but it did. And seeing them all come together, I didn't know how that was gonna look, and it looks really cool, and that's what started everything. So I'm gonna say favorite. I'm going to say the original Avengers, and the best one that they've ever done has got to be when the man who shares a goatee like mine snapped his fingers and said, "I am Iron Man." So, Endgame.
I agree.
I'm going to have to say
I agree.
Endgame. Even though he's coming back now as Doctor Doom, but
Yes,
like,
please don't get me started. I thought Pedro Pascal should have been Victor Von Doom instead of Reed Richards, which I still think he'll do a fantastic job as Reed Richards, but I just think looking at Pedro Pascal, that man just screams Victor Von Doom.
yeah, I can see. And you know what is as much as the last iteration by 20th Century Fox of Fantastic Four when they tried to make him serious didn't work out. The one scene that was beautiful was when Victor Von Doom became Doctor Doom and he woke up and there's just that scene of him like getting up and just moving his hands and people are banging into the walls. There's blood everywhere. He's walking down the hallway. And I was like, give me the murderer's row Doctor Doom from this movie and leave everything else out. Just give me this Doctor Doom. So
That was a great performance. I think those movies catch a little more crap than they should, so to speak.
yeah,
I think they were pretty good. I mean, some of it had its moments, but I think they were pretty decent.
and by the way, Marvel's iteration, the first MCU Fantastic Four, which is Fantastic Four First Steps, they basically take everything from Rise of the Silver Surfer with this new Silver Surfer, the way that she comes to the planet, what she says, how Johnny Storm chases her, how he all of a sudden falls back to Earth. all of that already happened in Fantastic Four too. So just so you all
Yeah.
know, if you think 20th Century Fox got it wrong, Marvel is actually paralleling a bunch of the elements of Silver Surfer from that original movie. So my question back to you, best Marvel character that we've seen on the screen and best one that we haven't yet.
Ooh, okay. So best on screen classic answer. I'm gonna say Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. I just think that casting was. I don't think there was a better person in the world to play Tony Stark. I think he fit just 100%, and that was perfect. If I had to say another, just because, um, as funny as it is, I actually think Chris Evans might have been the perfect Captain America. At first, I was never a hater on it, but I just wasn't. I was like, yeah, I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And as the franchise went on, I kind of truly fell in love with his character. So I think that's great. Um, in terms of a character that we haven't seen yet, I'm very interested to see how they portray Victor Von Doom in this way. Just having Robert Downey Jr. as a character, because we all know that with the multiverse, they can go a bunch of different directions where we think RDJ is going to be Victor Von Doom for a very long time, and then he's not anymore. So there's a lot of different ways. I'm interested to see how they do. I was going to say that until the previews that we saw, to me, I love the Silver Surfer. I think the Silver Surfer is one of the best nicknames in all of Marvel, and one of the best lines when from the comics when he swoops in and he's standing on the front of the board and they ask who he is and he says, "I am the Harbinger." I think that is just one of the coldest, just coolest moments of all time. So I was interested to see what route they were gonna take with the Silver Surfer, and then when they went the female route, which there's a female surfer in the comics, I thought it was a really good idea and a really really good way to work another female lead into the movie. So I thought it was really cool and interesting. So I guess I'll say we've kind of seen the surfer, but we haven't seen them yet. So I would like to see a more elaboration on that role because I'm a true Silver Surfer fan.
Yeah, I love the Silver Surfer too, and when he came for the first time in Rise of the Silver Surfer and Fantastic Four, when he looks right at them and he just says, "Your world is at an end," like that to me was
Yep.
incredible. And when Johnny's chasing him as a Human Torch, and he thinks he's catching up to him, and then he turns around and grabs Johnny's neck and then brings him up to the sky until he loses his flame, and then he just tosses him back to the earth. Like there's so many things about that Rise of the Silver Surfer movie that don't get credit, but
I agree.
I'm ready to see Galactus look like what I always tell people with his helmet looking like a giant coffee maker, a coffee machine. So I
Yes.
can't wait to see Coffee Machine
We
Galactus.
we laugh though, but the character itself is fantastic. The Devourer of Worlds, come on, that's just a cool nickname, and I think that as much as I agree with you, he does kind of look like a giant coffee pot that I think they'll do a good job with, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see his. I mean, in the previews, you hear him and then you just see this foot and he's literally just walking through New York City. I'm ready. I am ready to see, and honestly, I'm saying this now, Galactus is going to win. He is going to devour the Fantastic Four's world, and they get on the ship to go through the multiverse to escape.
Yep, I
They
agree.
didn't beat Galactus and then are coming to tell 616 how to do it. They lost and they're running for their lives.
And I think there's going to be a little. I think there might be a little facetiousness going on and saying that they didn't run. I think that also could be a way that they take it to try to see if they can just not talk Galactus back into existence to 616. But I don't know. I've heard a lot of different things about the movie, and I've heard there's not a ton of uh, guest appearances and things like that. It is a 60s style space race movie
Yeah.
with the Fantastic Four. So
Yeah. Well, it's called First Steps. I think it turns into a pretty swift run. What is your
yeah, I
second?
was gonna say sprinting by the end.
Yeah. What's your second question for me?
Second question. I guess I won't pick a sport. Favorite team in your favorite sport and why?
That's tough. My favorite sport is basketball because I could shut my brain off and It's one of the only things I can truly shut my brain off and be at complete peace. Music, singing and writing music, basketball, washing dishes, and cooking. Those are my shut the brain off things. I am a Toronto Raptor fan. I always will be. I have a
I
We the
like
North
that.
sign that's held by BB-8 over my shoulder. Shout out to BB, my rolling
Respect
soccer
it.
ball that I love. So what'd you say?
I said, no, I love it. I said, love
Yeah.
it, respect it.
So yeah, so I'm a Raptor fan. I was told that my Raptors would never win a championship. Why do you like the
Mm.
only team that's not in America? They shouldn't even play in the NBA. They're in Canada. And then when they won in 2019, I waited for flowers, chocolates, apology letters. I got maybe a couple messages, but not any true I'm sorries, which I'll accept that. But I
They
will.
won't, they'll never admit that they're wrong, Dan. You know that.
Oh, I know, but I will.
All the big haters, they'll never admit it.
I will say from a Drake song headlines. I will say that after they won, it was so fitting to have one of my favorite quotes from Drake be in connection to this Raptors championship, which is tuck my napkin in my shirt because I'm just mobbing like that. So I definitely love my Raptors and I feel it and I will love them forever. And Kawhi Leonard will always be one of my favorite Raptors ever. But my favorite is Damon Stoudemire and he's right there. So Mighty Mouse forever.
I
My
love it.
my question back to you.
Hmm.
If you could go to any Major League Baseball team and become their manager, which team would you go to right now? And what if you could put any three players on the team? What three players would you want on one squad? Now I know that's tough to ask because the Dodgers have bought half the country.
I was gonna say, so can I just take the Dodgers and say, no, I'm just kidding. I was gonna, that's half the league is on that team. But
Yeah.
um, if I had to be a homer, I'm a diehard Mets fan,
Okay.
so I would love to be the manager of the Mets just because that's my team.
Okay.
Um, but looking throughout the league, I would say probably the Baltimore Orioles.
Okay.
I think they are apparently right now they can't hit left-handed pitching. I don't know why. For the
Yeah.
love of God, they were one of the last year or the year before. I can't remember. They were one of the top three teams against left-handers in baseball,
Yeah.
and now this year it looks like they're swinging against lefties blindfolded. But I think they have a lot of good pieces, and I think you've seen now like guys like Jackson Holliday who were supposed to be some of their big hitters have had some issues, but now Jackson's got that new stance that's changed some things. Um, I think the Orioles are not far,
Okay.
actually,
Okay.
from a championship roster, and I
Okay.
still think they have some pretty good pieces that could be moved
Okay.
to get other pieces that they need.
Okay.
And then to follow that second part, if I had to bring three players on the team, there's zero chance that I'm not picking Shohei Ohtani as the number one player of all players because he is head and shoulders the best baseball player I have ever seen. And I think to take a Moneyball line, there's Shohei, then there's 50 feet of crap, and then there's everybody else. And now I don't think there's 50 feet of crap, but
Yeah.
I think there is a clear head and shoulders advantage to Shohei Ohtani. So I would put Ohtani on that team. Um, gonna need a dominant pitcher.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Tark Skubal has made that next step. And I truly to have a dominant left-handed starter like that. Now, granted, Skubal's not Randy Johnson, but have a dominant left-hander. I think I would bring him in, and then the last piece that I would bring in is I'm going to go Mets homer, and it's actually not somebody that you thought, but Brandon Nimmo would be
Okay.
the third person that I bring to the team. Brandon Nimmo is probably my favorite player in Major League Baseball right now,
Okay.
and he is just the definition of a baseball player. He
Okay.
walks, ball four, tosses the bat, sprints down to first base. He always has a smile on his face. He always plays his ass off, and that's just the type of guy that he is. He is, and I like again. I have not met him personally, so I cannot speak to his character in that sense. But people that I know who have, and every interview you see, he's a top-notch human being. So buying into a culture, believing in the guy. So I would say those would be my big three: Otani, Skubal, and Brandon Nimmo at the moment.
Fantastic and very thoughtful answer. Your final question for me.
Final question. What brought you to where you are now? What put you in this position and what made you want to start your own media company? What made you want to take the route that you did?
If there was 4 paved roads in front of me and I stood there with God, he would say, I would say, God, what road am I taking? And he would laugh and he would say, turn to your left. You're going through that forest. You're going to cut a road, you're going to pave it, and you're going to make it for someone else coming after you to help their life be better. But you're the one that paves my roads. You're not the one that walks down the ones that are paved. You're my creator. You're not my copier. You're not my person that looks for a precedent. You are my precedent. And I don't fight it. I don't say it with an ego. I'm not saying I'm a precedent like I'm something great. I'm saying I'm a precedent in the sense of I don't care what anybody else is doing. It doesn't matter to me. And I know this is a family show, but I want to kick Dan Tortora's ass from yesterday. I want to kick his
Hmm.
ass. I
Hmm.
love him, but I'm going to beat his ass when I wake up in the morning. And
Hmm.
this was just born out of, I thought I wanted to be on SportsCenter. I got to do ESPN dream job down in Florida. I won it. I got to be on 3 ESPN affiliates. I appreciated all that time and everybody that I met from it. But I got to a point where I said to myself, when I moved back from Florida, I said, you're either going to Syracuse or you're going to Bristol, Connecticut. And I asked God, I said, I know you don't do things right off the bat. I know it's, you ask for something and it's not going to like immediately happen. But if you could just please send me a shooting star, I would really appreciate that. And I was walking in Kissimmee, Florida, and I was looking straight up. I was looking up like this. And then something said, no, look straight up. And I looked up, and as I was looking up, a shooting star went over my head in a green line. Green's my favorite color. I didn't know exactly what it meant, but I decided to go home. And if I didn't, I wouldn't have had any time with my grandmothers. My Gammy on my dad's side, my G Mama on my mom's side. I made the decision to come home, and I worked for other people. I did an online thing with Fox. I worked at the Score 1260, which was Yahoo, and it was great. I had good experience. But I got to a point where I had been lied to enough, and I had been disrespected enough, and I wanted to start my business maybe at 30, but I was 26. And the girl I was dating at the time looked at me and said to me, how long are you going to keep working for people that don't respect you? And I felt it, but she was like, what are you waiting for? 27 cents in my pocket, $103 in my bank account, living with G Mama, taking care of her so she didn't have to go to a nursing home. I started my business with a lot of support from my parents, a lot of support from my grandparents, and just the will of God. And I worked at it, and I went after it, and people say, why did you do it? Why would you make your life difficult? I left traditional radio when people thought that was psychotic, like that was crazy. Podcasting was never going to work. The internet radio wasn't a real thing. It was for nerds. It was stupid. Nobody knew how to make it work. Nobody knew how it worked. And I just went and I did it. And I literally, to this day, will tell you when people say, how did you create your business? I would say, God and I in the trenches molding the air in front of us. There was nothing tangible, and we just made it. I can get up now and tell somebody, hey, I'm going to be out of town for a day. Can you run my show? Here's my studio. Here's my office. Here's all the presets to it. Here are the guests we're going to have on the show. Here's all the social media. Here's the things you need to click on. Here's the commercials you need to run. I go from moments in my career where I'm like, how am I going to do that? What equipment am I going to buy? Where am I going to go? How's it going to be live? What avenues am I using? What software am I using? How do I fix this problem? And then I blink and God's like, wow, that was a problem 12 years ago. And so I got into it because I love it. I stopped working for other people because I love God and I have morals and I have values and I like telling the truth and I like building relationships and I don't like screwing people over. And I think other people's money should be handled with care like it's your own, and I respect people. So I didn't have a choice. When it comes to me and God, I don't question anymore. I know. I would be surprised if he said, hey, you know what? That road looks pretty clear. Why don't you go down it? I don't even look at him anymore. I'm like, all right, just give me the machete and I'm cutting through the trees. And I love it. I appreciate that he trusts me with it. I used to hate getting thrown into the fire. Now I know I become the Hulk every time it happens. So I got a really big grin on my face when people throw me in the fire because I know what it's going to make me. And I just chase it every day. I'm 21 years into broadcasting, and I'm attacking this thing like I'm a 21-year-old that just graduated from college and is going after their first job and is willing to do anything and everything morally to get there. So, I mean, I
That's how
know
you have to be.
it's a long-winded answer, but no one's going to beat me except for me. And when I beat myself, it's a good thing. So,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, I'm hungry, I'm passionate, I love it, and I'm going to make this world have good in it, whatever it takes.
That's I don't think you could have given a better answer. That's what's life is about. I don't know if you've seen the video that's circulated on Instagram. It's just a little reel. I'm sure it's on all the social media platforms, but it was a longtime boxing coach and one of his fighters in the corner, and he had got kind of worked the round before,
Yeah.
and he sits him down and he's putting the ice bag on his head. And he looks at him. He goes, "Hey, we are firefighters. We live in the heat. We live in the flame." And he goes, "We don't run away from it. We mold it. We construct it." And he goes, "And then what do? We put it out." So he goes, "Go out there and put it out." And he went out and knocked him out. And it was just one of those things where it was like, but just like you said, where I used to hate being thrown in the fire, and now it's kind of where you thrive. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest thing. Our brains are wired. Fear, there's legitimate fear in certain situations in life, but a lot of fear is just your brain loves repetition. Your
Yeah.
brain loves pattern, and fear is something that comes from change, and a lot of times that's the biggest thing is embracing the fear and throwing yourself in the fire, because if you're not a little nervous, you're not a little anxious, you're not doing something right, you
And
know.
I always tell people it's like the 4-step rule for me is I take 1, 2, 3, 4 steps onto the stage, or however many steps on the stage, and the moment that they hand me the mic after after I get to the top, it's like nerves, 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 nerves. Hand me the mic, it's gone.
Yep. And
Like
showtime, and you gotta go.
comedy, music, sports. Put me in an arena with 1 million people, and I will look out at that crowd and I will say to God in my head, they have no idea what's about to happen to them. Like that, and that's just me. Like I love it. I thrive with it. I feel it. And I mean, I am the person. If I tell you I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. If I say I'm writing a script and I'm going to make that movie, Dan, there's no way you're not in the this, you're not in the that. Okay. Every other thing I've done was impossible. So here's the next impossible thing I'm going to do. And yeah, I like the challenge. I am that person that they could put a Spider-Man suit on and hang me upside down at the Empire State Building, and I don't want a stunt double. So,
Yep. If I'm doing it, I'm doing it.
yeah.
I'm not going halfway.
Yeah, like you're not going to watch the movie and go, oh, like, which one's you? Oh, I'm the one in the coffee shop. Okay, when he puts the suit on and he fights, oh, no, that's not me. No, that's me. I would be the guy that would call my mom in the Spider-Man suit upside down and FaceTime her from the Empire State Building, and she'll be like, Daniel, call me when you're off the building
Be
because
safe,
yeah,
please, Daniel.
like I'm gonna have a heart attack. And she's like, I'm like, Ma, I have to FaceTime you. And I'd be like, Ma, look at this. Like when I was a little kid, you bought me Spider-Man stuff. Now I can lift up the thing and be like, Ma, this is crazy. Hold on. I'm gonna pull it down, put it back up. Like I'm that guy that would be like, you thought, Mom, when I was a kid and I told you I wanted to be Spider-Man. Well, here we are. So
You're actually end up being the worst superhero of all time because you're going around telling everybody who you are, just because you can't help it. You're so pumped to be Spider-Man. You're like, I'm just saying, you haven't seen me and Spider-Man in the same room. That's it, you know?
yeah, like we're not in the same place, but you also haven't seen me and Tobey Maguire in the same place.
Yeah.
So,
Listen, my
but
close personal friend Spider-Man,
yeah.
you just haven't seen him.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at Disney. I know what a friend of means. So my final question back to you, Rich, is going to be if you were assembling an Avengers team,
Mhm.
I want to know who you would be. I want to know who you would make me, and I'm going to have some fun with this. I want to know who you would make Brooke in this Avengers squad, and I want to know why.
Ooh, okay. I'll start with myself,
Okay.
I guess, because it's the one I want to do the least. Um, oh God, for myself,
Yeah.
I guess I would have to say Hawkeye. I would
Okay.
put myself as Hawkeye because I think often he's the forgotten Avenger where I'm not saying a forgotten one, but someone whose talents go unnoticed sometimes, but when you really, really take off, and I know Hawkeye, he doesn't wear a mask, but say as Ronin, he does.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when you really take off the mask, so to speak, at Hawkeye, you realize um how actually incredible he is and some of the things that he can do. I also, as a joke for a side, I would say M'Baku, only because if you watch in right after Cap says Avengers Assemble and they all run at Thanos' army, if you look in the beginning, Steve and Black Panther and all of them are all on Thor are all running. And M'Baku is stride for stride with all of them. And I was like, and that's just a guy. You know what I mean? So I'm like, maybe I'll be that guy because that guy seems pretty good on his own. Give that guy some powers. That would be kind of crazy. But I would I would actually make you Cap
Okay.
because the explanation that you just gave with your media empire and everything like that is the way that Steve would go with it, and also the way that you're saying that you're single and you're looking for somebody is you're looking for someone to the end of the line, man. And that's I think that quote just fits well, and I think the way that you work hard and you want to be a leader, and that's the way you see yourself as a is not but not a leader in a selfish way, a leader of I have a vision to make the world a better place, and that's all Steve ever wanted to do was serve the people and make the world a better place. So I think I would put you there. And then for Brooke now, that's an interesting one. But Brooke, I would have to say, I will say Wanda, but
Okay.
not for the ways that you think.
Okay.
Who's the most powerful being in as of now,
Yeah.
maybe before we see Victor or Galactus, who's the most powerful being in the Marvel universe?
Yeah. Scarlet Witch.
Maximoff,
Yeah.
who is pardon my language, for the most badass woman they think we have there in the MCU, and I think that fits Brooke perfectly. She's been not only a leader but just a powerful driving force behind not just the baseball program, but the athletics department as a whole, and she's done just an absolutely fantastic job. So all the power to the powerful lady, you know. So I would say Wanda.
The one that almost broke Thanos by herself if somebody
Yep.
else wasn't helping him. So,
You took everything from me. You don't know, I don't even know who you are. You
yeah,
will. And that's why if you don't know who Brooke is, you will.
I love that. And I can appreciate that. You will. Rich Dessureau here with us, Bryant Stratton, Syracuse head baseball recruiter, as we step forward into a new era of baseball with the Bobcats. In this edition of the Bobcat Buzz, the exclusive first conversation with Rich. And of course, here on Wake Up Call inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Rich, I want to thank you for being a part of the broadcast today. And I will say this in echoing of what you said and the very nice compliments that you said. I think it is truly fitting that in this conversation, I am on your left.
You are. Yeah, it is. That is the most fitting thing. And I was gonna say it, but I was like, I brought too many quotes in as it is. I can't keep throwing. It's gonna be cheesy if I keep throwing all the quotes in. So I'm glad you worked that in because that it's absolutely you are on my left.
Well, I appreciate you, Rich. I appreciate this conversation. And we have definitely much to talk about from here. So thank you so much for your time. God bless to you and your family, and to your family up in heaven, like Grandpa and your other Grandpa Bob that is here with us. And of course, a big time shout out to your parents and to your little brother, your Ryan Gosling, and to Caitlin Syracuse representing our city well. Shout out to everybody in your corner, and very excited to see what you're going to do with this program.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Dan. It's been an absolute pleasure being on. I love talking baseball and talking everything in between. So it was really great. And yes, we will have a lot more conversations in the future, I'm sure. And as we've already had, off air. But thank you again for having me on and taking the time. I really appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to making this Bryant Stratton program the true powerhouse it deserves to be.
I want to thank you for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT for audio and video, and our live internet streaming radio that comes to you on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. And of course, once we go live, we jump into the archives, and you can find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And many thanks to the wonderful Brooklyn Pickle in Southern Pines, North Carolina. From New York to North Carolina, you'll find them on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, right down the road from Pinehurst Golf Course that the PGA Tour knows all too well. That New York flavor, a sandwich, all of those great sandwiches, all the ingredients, all of the wonderful things we've been spoiled with in the great state of New York are down in North Carolina as the Brooklyn Pickle ventures down the coast to Southern Pines on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Let them know that DT sent you. And of course, many thanks to our team of partners in Central and Upstate New York, Great Lakes Honda City, where you can go Monday through Saturday for sales and service and get yourself new and used vehicles. If you want to tour what they have on the lot, go to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. You also get the phone numbers there for their sales and service at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. And I want to thank Great Lakes Honda City for over a decade of me bringing home vehicles that I have enjoyed. So many thanks to Great Lakes Honda City, our exclusive studio partner. Carvel DeWitt, the exclusive home of the DT Dolphin. It's our ode to the Lemoyne College Dolphins. You will find our DT Dolphin Sunday on site, on location, down the road from Lemoyne College on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. Carvel DeWitt, the longest standing franchise in America with the DT Dolphin exclusive. And that is mint chocolate chip, whipped cream, and a cherry, hot fudge, green and gold sprinkles, and a chocolate dolphin jumping out of your whipped cream. Get it 7 days a week, and on Wednesdays, buy one, get one. The Wildcat Sports Pub, where we proudly call home to our West Genesee shows of over 8 years. With the West Genesee Wildcats coaches and student athletes, as well as their families, you'll find us at the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. GG Cards and Breaks, your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. A place that helps you be a big kid, no matter what your age is. And you can celebrate it with your parents, your grandparents, your friends, your neighbors, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. GG Cards and Breaks is a place for everyone of all ages, because our kid spirit should always be vibrant and strong. GG Cards and Breaks, where you can find them Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6, Sundays from 10 to 5, and of course 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse is the location. And monthly we have Trade Night, where you could buy, sell, and trade sports cards, as well as Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, and Disney Lorcana. Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world. You'll find Ma and Pa's on 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, with multiple types of freeze-dried candy, as well as cotton candy, lemonade, and a plethora of flavors when it comes to kettle corn, popcorn, and premium corn, like the Elvis, which is banana-covered popcorn with the peanut butter Reese's drizzle, the way that Elvis liked peanut butter and banana. All of the wonderful things that you see are made in-house at Ma and Pa's. The lemonade, the cotton candy, the freeze-dried candy, as well as the popcorn and kettle corn. Find it all on 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And if you're out of town and you want to order it, and I just made your mouth water, go to Ma and Pa's Popcorn and you can order today. Avicoli's, our home of our Liverpool athletic broadcast with student athletes, coaches, and administration every single month on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, at the corner of Wetzel Road and Route 57. And if you stand on the corner, you can see Liverpool High School within walking distance of Avicoli's, open 7 days a week. As well as Servomation, reinvigorating, re-energizing, reimagining what it is to have vending, whether it be at your high school, your grammar school, your preschool, your college, university, place of business, rest stop, airport. Servomation, the technology they have, the assortment, the variety that they have, and the quality of food. I've toured their facility in upstate New York, and you wouldn't believe the kitchen. There's restaurants that would beg to have a kitchen like this. Servomation does it differently, and I'm very happy to say that we are partnered with them. ServoMation.com. Go there for more information. Mother's Cupboard, the home of my breakfast sandwich exclusively in Central New York, 3709 James Street in Syracuse, 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. You will find the Cuse McMother, bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Cut it up and have it with some syrup. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich and dip it in the syrup, and do it today. Chick-fil-A Cicero, the first Chick-fil-A in Central New York, and owner-operator Jim Rusakowski, a brother of mine. You don't want to miss out on Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A Cicero specifically is a step above, in my opinion. There's people that are proud to see you, team members that are incredible. Chick-fil-A Cicero, they do it to the nth degree. They break the mold, and you can find those team members in our series, The Light Between Us, which airs every single month. Go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and search the Light Between Us playlist. Canine Camp Dog Daycare. There's no better place to bring your dog out in East Syracuse. Daycare. Hey, we all got stuff going on, and sometimes we just have to drop our dog off so that our dog's not sitting at home in a kennel or just being at home by themselves. The daycare at Canine Camp Dog Daycare on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, across from BJ's, is the perfect place to go because of Lorraine, because of Chad, because of the care, concern, and the service to our wonderful animals. Head over there today, and of course you can call them at 315-437-7110 or go online to K-9kamp.com. Pizza Man, who we absolutely love going every single month and having our Baldwinsville Bees broadcast at Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York. You don't want to miss any of those shows we do on-site, on location, including Off the Rails with Al, featuring college football national champion Al Romano, who played with Tony Dorsett as a Pittsburgh Panther, and Hal's from Solvay. A lot of great things we get to do at Pizza Man. Love the Bees and appreciate the support that you have for their student athletes, coaches, administration, and families. And Brian's Landing, a place that we love to go out to in Jamesville. Brian's Landing, the menu that they have is eclectic. There's nothing on that menu where you sit there and go, oh, okay, like this is what the menu is because these 5 things are alike. No, everything is different. Something for everyone. 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. The perfect place to go with a team, the perfect place to go with a friend, the perfect place to go on a date or bring mom and dad. Brian's Landing makes you feel like you're away from home on a vacation when you're just out in Jamesville by the water. Head to Brian's Landing today. And of course, many thanks to the Lemoyne College Dolphins, Bryant Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, and the Binghamton University Bearcats for being our exclusive multimedia marketing partners. Lemoyne you will find Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time during Dolphin Time. And of course, you'll find Binghamton on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time during Bearcat Time. All of our teams are on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, find our Lemoyne playlist, our BSC Syracuse playlist, and our Binghamton playlist. You'll also find the Dolphins, the Bobcats, and the Bearcats by going to WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage and underneath the Exclusive Partners tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com as well as Syracuse.bscbobcats.com and BinghamtonBearcats.com. For now, from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, I say God bless, no stress, do your best. This is Wake Up Call. I'm Dan Tortora, and remember, God loves you.